With that, what we're about to do now is get the ball rolling for our next session. This is all about experiential retail. We're about to invite our set of panelists as they talk about unlocking the next level of consumption by engaging the five senses. And I think it's an absolutely pertinent topic in the day and age that we're all in, because it does not matter whether we are marketers or real estate professionals. At the heart of it, we're all consumers, and it's time to understand that consumer's mindset before we engage with them. So with that, let me go ahead and firstly invite our session moderator. We have with us Mr. V. Muhammad Ali, CEO, Forum Malls Prestige Group, who will be busy extracting all the insights from his fellow panelists. And joining him, may I please invite on stage Abhishek Bajpai, CEO, Apparel Group India, Kabir Suri, founder, Zure Hospitality, and also the President, National Restaurant Association of India. May I further please invite Vrinda Shetty, Director, Bentel RDC India, Ankit Kamboj, Principal and Design Director, Broadway, Malyan. May I further invite Pramod Arora, Chief Growth and Strategy Officer, Enabler, PVR. Please come on stage. All right, on that note, time to deep dive into our next session. So with that, let me firstly hand it over to Mr. V. Muhammad Ali to share his presentation and set the tone.
Thank you. Well, can I start my screen, please? Yeah, so it's a privilege, actually, to listen to such amazing talks. And create that humor around condom was amazing. And knowledge sharing, that's the whole purpose that we are here. We enjoy doing this, to share knowledge, to gain knowledge. And this particular topic is very close to my heart. It's unlocking the next level of consumption by engaging with five senses. It's different. The topic is different because it's about you. When you speak about consumption, what we normally hear, we hear statistics, we hear data, we hear technology, and we have forgotten the human side of it. Because at the core of consumption, ladies and gentlemen, is us. And it's the experience that drives consumption. And the only way you can experience anything is through the five senses. It's very basic. And according to me, and we all believe, that this is the next wave, the experience, the next wave. So we had several waves for about 2 decades. I've been building malls for 21 years now. The wave was convenience for a long time, and last 10, 15 years, it has been value, which is driven by a thought process that a penny saved is penny earned, like buy more for less. That's been a wave that was there all this while. Or buy 3, get 2 free. You know, that's how consumption was happening, and they dumped it on all of us. So you went to a store, you found something, you only like 2 items. But now you're forcing yourself to believe that buy the other 3 because you're getting an offer. And it's there in your wardrobe, and then you also realize you're not wearing it anymore. Thankfully, that era is over. That wave is over. The next wave of consumption, which is already here, we all are in it as we speak, is about experience, is about engaging with five senses. If whosoever in your respective businesses understand this, adapt to this, will have an edge. Those who miss out will be making a big mistake. Now, before we move on to the panelists and we speak about these subjects, I have a small story to share, just to create a context on what I'm speaking about. It's Diderot. So in 17th century, there was this French philosopher, Diderot. He was the guy who compiled the first encyclopedia. So 17th century was different. There was no Wikipedia at that time. So it was a hard work. He went all over the world, studied, gathered a lot of information. And he spent his lifetime compiling it. It so happened, at a certain time in his life, he realized that his daughter has grown of age and she needs to get married. And he has no money because he never paid attention to his bank balance. So he was busy doing what he was supposed to do. And now he has a responsibility. So with a heavy heart, he decides to sell the only asset that he has created in his life, which is his library, which is very precious. Hearing this, Princess of Russia got interested and she gave him a handsome price. He sold this library, he has money, and all his lifetime work is gone. So his life is changed. So he's walking to the streets of Paris and he sees a silk robe. And he gets excited. He says, let me buy this robe. Normally he would have missed that robe because he's so busy doing what he's supposed to do. But this time, he stops, he pays attention, and he buys that robe. He comes home, throws that robe on the sofa, and life is normal. Only for 2 days. Because something is not normal. Something is bothering him. That this beautiful silk robe is on this old, rugged, torn sofa, not making sense. So to make things right, he goes and buys a new sofa. And then for 2 days, he finds some peace. But after 2 days, again, something is bothering him, that this new sofa and this new robe are going well with each other, the ergonomics of it. But the curtain behind is not matching. So he goes, buys a new curtain, then a new ceiling, then a new flooring. By and by, he redoes his entire living area. And once again, he has no money for his daughter's wedding. That story is over, that's it. But this story is called the Diderot effect, and it is taught in universities under the subject consumerism of what people do, how people do. And if you see our lives before COVID, we were doing exactly that. Very busy with what we were doing. And during COVID, we all were closed in an environment. We had time. You don't have to be in office at a time. You don't have to wear a particular uniform. You don't have to eat in a particular place. So you were left with your life. You could do what you want. And things changed. And that's the next wave that we are talking about. Now people are saying, I don't need 5 garments. I'll have only 1. But I really need to know why I should buy it. Because it's now about me. That's how the world is. Ladies and gentlemen, today, the luxury brands of the world in India, and we have a luxury malls ourselves, so I'm speaking very confidently with data. If you convert even in dollars, the business that they are doing in India today is on par with business that they are doing anywhere else in the world. Some of the best restaurants that we know in India are doing a business, a turnover, which is on par with what restaurants are doing anywhere in the world. $1 million homes, $1 million US homes in India are selling like hotcakes. And many, many more things will follow. So that's the impact. And with that thought process, I'd like to show this image while we speak during this whole session. That the next level of consumption, if we want to unlock consumption, if we want to have an edge over competition, if we want to differentiate ourselves in what we do, how do we do, you have to engage with all the 5 senses. And then we have this amazing panel with us, which were handpicked. So one is Pramod. Pramod has built almost all the multiplexes of PVR. And from the first multiplex to now, he's seen the whole journey of how multiplexes have evolved. He's the CEO of strategic development. Then we have Ankit. Ankit is from Broadway Mullion, an international architect firm. They have built many malls. Then we have Rinda from Bentel. They have designed many malls. And then we have Kabir, who's an entrepreneur, Azure Hospitality. He has about 60 restaurants and also president of Restaurant Association of India. So he's from food industry. And we have Abhishek, who's CEO for major brands. You have his products in your wardrobes, Bath and Body Work, Aldo, Charles & Keith, and so on and so forth. So what we will quickly do is that experience driving consumption and how important is it for us to engage with all the 5 senses to unlock consumption. We would like to hear from all of these gentlemen from their respective businesses. Let's understand that, and then I will probably in the end answer that question from a mall's point of view, and then we will take that forward. So Abhishek, you can start.
I think just from the experience perspective, more so it's becoming a thing about survival from a brick and mortar perspective. Uh, you know, what we sell can be bought online through different channels, why a customer has to leave their home and come to a shopping mall, is the whole experience of buying that product, right from the time they enter the mall to the time they come inside the store, to the time they purchase the product. I think it's a social activity. It's an activity that engages them at the whole different level than what they can do through a e-commerce channel. So it is very critical as the brands grow in the future. They curate experiences that will allow the customer to revert back to the malls, to the stores or restaurants as we go forward. One more thing that's also, what we're seeing globally is malls that did not create those experiences are on a downward slide globally. And if you see the new projects that Forum has done, or some of the other mall developers are doing, are at par with the best in the world today. And that is purely driven by the fact that the consumer requires those to come and shop. So pretty much aligned with that thought that it is not just important, it is about survival for retailers, for mall owners, for restaurant or the cinema halls to have that as part of their commitment and what they do.
Abhishek, staying with you before we go to others, what is it that you are thinking or trying to bring in your businesses and your stores, keeping the experiences and engagement in mind to stay ahead of the competition?
I think as much as we want to integrate technology into our stores, I think experience is way beyond that as a concept. Yeah, it's about how you're greeted at the front of the store. It's about how convenient it is for you to shop. From a visual merchandising perspective, how the stores look. What's the storytelling in the store? You don't get that storytelling on an online portal. Yeah, but you do get a storytelling at the store. So brands that can tell good stories are the brands that will survive in the long run. And if you're not telling a story to your customer, probably you will have a difficulty. So we are really focused on that storytelling side as a business. If we are able to tell a good story for a brand, I think that brand will have a future in the long term.
Amazing. I think that's a good takeaway for all of us, brand and storytelling. Now, moving on to F&B industry. So we have Kabir with us. And Kabir has been in this business from a very long time. So Kabir, if you can share with us from an F&B point of view, because you can speak on behalf of the entire industry, what changes have you seen over the years? And what do you think is happening now which is different from the way F&B, the restaurant space, did business in the past decades?
Good afternoon, everyone. F&B in general is something that touches everyone's heart. It's directly connected to everyone's stomach and directly connected to everyone's mind. It definitely plays with five senses. I think as customers in India and as disposable income in India increases, which it has over the last 2 decades, and more so in the last decade, people's expectations, people's desires, people's wants, and what things stand, what brands they associate themselves with matters. And that is relevant when it comes to food as well. I think in general, we are seeing evolution of consumption, and evolution of consumption is visible basis people's tastes and choices. I think we have seen a gradual increase of restaurants that were there because there was nothing, restaurants that were there in a limited number or limited format, whereas today we see restaurants that are there in various different formats, from cloud kitchens to restaurants. So it's about convenience, accessibility, price point, and how you affiliate yourself with that brand and what the brand is solving, right? So every brand should have a story. Every brand has to have a hook. Every brand, besides making food, obviously that's expected, to making good food. But there has to be something beyond that. And as the consumer is evolving and as disposable income is increasing, like I said, I think the expectation of the consumer has changed. Expectation in regard to quality, expectation in regard to hygiene, expectation that in regard to the wow factor. I think as you go forward, and we are witnessing this not only in India, but we are seeing this globally, there are more elements than just food when it comes to dining out. There are more elements than just filling the stomach at a certain price point, right? The consumer is looking for engaging activities, engaging environment, presentation, because ultimately dining out is either for an event, it's an anniversary, it's a birthday, so it's led by some reason, or it is in general a collective gathering, because humans in general are social beings. So we need to engage, we need to be in an environment which allows us to sort of come together. And part of that coming together, I think what we are globally witnessing is that the consumer now is demanding more, and the consumer now is expecting a differentiated product. And I think restaurants in general, specifically in India and globally, are constantly trying to differentiate their offering through presentation, look and feel, product, gap in the market, location. There are various elements that come into play. So I think when you start ticking all those boxes, you will find that you have something unique, or you're solving a gap, or you are creating your own sort of customer following. And I think that is what we are seeing. And the successful restaurants that want to stay relevant are obviously pushing the pedal on that thought process. Because restaurants that focus only on one element will, as I understand, going forward, will no longer be relevant.
Amazing. So it's more like a celebration where it's not the hunger that's striking you. It's a moment where you want to escape, you want to be with people, and you want to celebrate, and hence experience quotient is very important. Now, before coming to the design part of it, I'd like to go to Pramod for a very simple reason, because I'm from mall business, and it's always food and cinema, the two important drivers for my business. So I'd like to go to Pramod first. And Pramod, what we want to hear is, there are two parts of experience as far as your business is concerned. One is the content, which is not in your control. But the second element is the product, the experience part of it, which is totally in your control. So how have you seen things change over the last 2 decades that you have been building multiplexes? And where do you see these going forward in terms of the immersive experience that you can offer and differentiate?
So thank you very much for the opportunity, Ali. Let me try to address what you've asked me for. See, my fellow panelists also did suggest about the 5 senses, and apparently you also spoke about the 5 senses, and that is the primary basis when it comes to, experiential living or experiences that we end up creating for humans. What I firmly believe is it is the evolution of us business houses, not the people. The people were always evolved. They always had these 5 senses since the time man was, or a human was born into this world. So they always had those 5 senses. We were not able to touch those 5 senses, and hence we were not offering anything experiential, but we were just offering something which was towards the need of the consumer. It would be the same for a cinema or for a restaurant or for an apparel house and so on and so forth. So, as is said and as many of us have experienced, people eat with their eyes. And I would tend to believe in a business like that of ours, people watch with their nose. The smell of a popcorn gets you to a film. Today you end up watching a film, the moment you end up smelling a popcorn, that really gets you to a film and you end up watching one. So, that sensory evolution of business houses in and around has happened over the years, wherein all of us as business houses have evolved to the need of the consumer. The consumers were always evolved. It was us who needed to evolve, and over a period of time, probably we have evolved. Now, as you look at the businesses and the new concepts go on coming up, whatever we have done into our cinema side, I would basically classify it into like something like, it's whatever we are doing is more immersive now. It is Instagrammable. It is delightful. It is shareable. So IIDS, which is what we end up using as one of the terminologies within our scheme of things, that, hey, we are getting on becoming more IIDS. We want to be more immersive. We want to be Instagrammable. We want to be delightful. And we want to be shareable. So that basically completes that experiential side for us, and which is the process of evolution over the last 25 years that we have seen in cinemas. From something which used to be a black box, today a cinema is something wherein you end up watching a film on a great seat, and you end up watching something which is giving your sensory touches a much higher level of inducement. When it comes to sound, something like 3.1 channel sound, which used to be the normal sound 25 years back, which was your stereo sound, is today infinite number of channels in Atmos. So if it is raining in the film, you actually end up feeling as if the drop has fell down right at your knee point, and you can actually feel that sound. Now, these are all things which are making the whole experience become more and more immersive. Of course, it becomes Instagrammable because all these places are more like fashion houses, including that cinema, wherein you want to take a picture and then post it on your Instagrammable. It is delightful to the consumer, and it is shareable. That's the reason you share up the experience with others. Now, typically, what we see next 5 years is going to be an evolution of the last 20 years, last 15 or 20 years. The evolution, if I can say, about cinemas has not really been that great. It has become great places wherein we have those very large screens. You call it a PXL, or you call it an IMAX, or you call it by various names that are existent out there, which have offered that immersion. But has it really truly touched the 5 senses of the consumers? I would tend to believe that journey has just started. There are a couple of cinema companies across the world who have already taken the mantle forward. Having for women, having your nail bar in a cinema. How about having your spa in a cinema? How about getting your hair treatment done in a cinema? It's all very much possible. People in a place wherein, they are looking at being that time poor, cash rich concept, or spending your time wisely is coming in handy. And people are looking forward to multiple things being done across the same time and having a delightful experience. Apparently, places like cinemas are going to go to that stage. Some of them are already sighting in some of the other countries. We do believe companies like that of ours are going to pick up this bus of next evolution and make the experience far more immersive than what it is today. Probably the next 5 years is going to see the last 25 years of cinema.
Two things I would like to add to my friend Pramod. One is the director's cut, the newest director's cut, which they opened in a property in Bangalore, the Rexbox. Regardless of how the cinema is, you have to go through that experience. And what you will bring back, maybe you might not remember which movie you saw, but what people come out and speak about is the experience of the movie, the experience of that ambience that they have created. So it's just a break. And second thing is, what I want to add, that they have opened a new cinema in another mall, Forum Mall in South Bangalore, where they have Dolby Atmos, 60 channel Dolby Atmos, 60 channel Dolby Atmos, 60 speakers. You cannot create that at home, and Netflix cannot give you that experience. So that is something, an engagement which is larger than life.
Now, and unfortunately, a Shahrukh on my screen is exactly similar to your home screen, is exactly similar to any other cinema. I can't change that. I can't change Shahrukh to a Salman Khan on my screen. It's impossible for me to do. What I can do is I can give you an experience or try to give you an experience which is close to your library hall, which is close to your living room. What Ali is talking about, if you get into that cinema, you know, all those 4 cinemas are, one of them is called the library. The other one is called a living room. Third is not called the bedroom, but something else, I do believe. But, you know, it gives you that experience wherein you end up getting closer to what your natural habitat is. And probably we believe consumers are looking forward to that.
Amazing. So, coming back to the mall designing, Vrinda. No, Bentel has designed malls. I mean, they're originally from South Africa. They have a lot of international exposure. We designed our second mall after opening of Forum Koramangala. The second mall was designed by them. So, Vrinda, you have designed so many malls. People have visited or visit, but they don't know that it's designed by you. So, what have you seen? Because you sit with the client and you take a brief. This is the mall. This is our vision. And a builder says, a developer says, this is what we want to create. So 20 years back, what they were saying, and 20 years therefrom now, what are they saying? What is the brief? Do you see any change?
Thanks, Ali. Thanks, Ali, for the introduction.
If you can hold a little closer, like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, see, now, primary thing in mall design is we are speaking about all these 5 senses, right? But the whole design starts with the common sense. So whether 20 years before or today, the common sense still exists, and that evolves with the waves and with the period. So here we speak about your basic mall planning that exists. We have to honor the sales requirement, your leasing requirement, but that primary thing can hold you on for a certain period of time. Beyond that, what next? There is a relationship, what you need to build. There's an engagement, what you need to build with the customer. This is a brief what we also get from our clients, from Prestige or various other clients. So what differential we can create there? So one thing is like, creating, designing a mall with the local context. For example, recently we finished and opened recently in Kochi Mall for Forum Group. The whole design of the mall is done based completely keeping in mind the Kerala as a context, the Kochi as a context. The design, interior design with the inspired from the Kasava sari concept, and the food court with the inspiration from the Fort Kochi concepts. So these are very small things, but it makes the people, the neighborhood, so much belong to place. That is one of the key things. Create a theme which doesn't compromise on your retail experience, but it created that differential experience which hold people for longer hours in mall, longer time in mall, and make them as a repeat customer. That is one factor. Another, these small factors, this is applied to any shopping center. You create various floors. We have ground floors, first floor, second floor. Where the critical mall is less, people go to even third floor. What is that motivates customer going beyond your first, second, and third floor? Does that really work? Traditionally, the ground and first. Mall means ground and first. What is that? Beyond that, it is there. So there has to be differential we have to create. Primary, it comes from the brief from the client. Client has to have their differential in brief, and that acceptance by the leasing, from the leasing team, how to take it further. But in some of the malls, we are experimenting, where you create these floors of these restaurant floors and give a theme to those restaurants. We are doing one mall in North India. It's as huge as more than 1.5 million square feet mall. And that mall spreading horizontally and vertically, how I would create interest in the upper levels. Retail floors are there, it's a success of the mall, and the shoppers will come and go. Vertically, we are trying to create the floor of restaurant with a different theme. It's something like, you can theme it around, you are having as a restaurant park or a restaurant village. Completely different, where it motivates people to come again and again. That in the larger aspect, we can create those differences. Creating like a complete water park in the terrace. Okay, this thing has come back, I will say. very long before, maybe in around 2010 or something like that, I visited Durban. There is a mall, Gateway Mall. At that point of time, I had seen that mall had in the upper level, like, after the 2-level retail and the 3rd level, they had a various terraces where they had a complete floor. There is a water park and there is a lot of entertaining engagement. What actually I saw is people getting engaged longer hours, and there is a customer coming weekends, weekdays, and in the evenings for that purpose. Today we see that purpose being initiated in almost most of our design. The terrace being highly utilized, whether as a sports park. In urban cities especially, there is a short of space. Every bit, every inch is very valuable. You have a terrace. In a design, we ensure that terrace is all services free, so it's available for our client, where you have your action cricket, your fireside football, or even a large open ground where one can organize the event. So these kind of a themes we are bringing in, where we are trying to create experience and uniqueness in the mall, uniqueness in the system. Apart from that, like, how to create in every floor, in vast floors. You have a mall which is, some of the malls what we are designing, they have a spread of almost 1.5 to 2 lakh as a floor spread. From one end to another end, there has to be these are like small things, like creating coffee shops, or rightly strategically you locate the coffee shops or the cookie stores, where, I mean, probably that's a right way of invoking your senses, like, tempting one to have a coffee or buy a cookie from the cookie man. I'm specifying the brand here because that always, I know when I pass by that, it always motivates me to buy cookie, and it happens with most of the customer. So it helps. Like, this is a very typical thing I've heard. Many, even some of our client also say, and the leasing team also demands this. When wife shops with the kid and I have to stay out for 2 hours, 1 hour, that's how much ladies take in shopping. It happens in my home also. So how we motivate the rest of the family member to stay and keep them active? Yes, you see a coffee shop and I'm sure in 2 hours, at least you'll make a decision to have one sip of coffee.
There's also spa in PVR coming.
Yeah.
So that could be another option, yeah.
This is exactly a brief one of my client gave me, this client from Kerala. They gave me a brief because there the model is coming up where, like, you are having these 3 lakh kind of a shopping center happening in, I would say, every 2.5 hours traveling distance. Can you imagine these neighborhood centers happening in every 300 kilometers distance, 200 to 300 kilometers distance of Kerala? And what the same client is doing, and even in those locations, even in those small centers, this demand is there. You have to locate me a coffee shop, maybe 1 or 2 locations in every floor in strategic locations. You give me a uniqueness in my food court. It's not repetitive.
Yeah. I think in terms of time constraint, Vrinda, I need to cut you off. And Ankit, last but not the least, you have designed many malls. You're a multinational architect firm yourself. Now, taking from where Vrinda left, if every developer comes and tells you, give me something different, how do you respond to that?
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Almost stole everything I wanted to say. Anyways, I'll tell a story, actually. And you say I'm mad. I don't talk about design. I don't talk about neighborhood. So me and my wife took our pet to his pet store, left the dog there, walked on the street, and one day found a small restaurant, okay, because of a smell. And it was a nice Thai, I don't want to take the name, I don't want to take away from Mama Goto, but a nice Thai restaurant. And we went in, and we realized they just opened, okay. The authentic experience is when the chef came out, and she was a Thai chef cooking Thai food. And she could tell the story about Thai food and why we should eat, and she would almost curate the experience for us. Okay, so we didn't want to eat, but we ended up eating there, right? The food was unbelievable, okay? Then what is the sort of side part of it is, oh, let's go buy a t-shirt and go home. So shopping is almost like a side product, not the main product why we want to go to this place. And obviously, when you watch a movie, if the shopping center is a neighborhood, right? We almost don't want to design for the retailers because you're already so innovative. Every retailer today is actually innovating. I mean, he's innovating food, right? We almost have fun for the part where you don't want to even touch, like all those sports spaces when the shopping center, the developers used to say, oh, don't waste it. It's sort of money for me. This corridor has to be this way. Just keep walking because you want to go there and everybody should be visible, right? That is going away. Because if once you go once, right, they already know where to go. Is this sense of discovery which keeps you engaging, right? I think the sense of discovery comes from you want to go once, you want to go twice, you want to go thrice, and that you're sort of engaging the whole, almost curating the experience. And the curation will come from flexibility, right? So the whole, I think the many developers here still talking about big atriums and I'm the tallest small, I'm the widest small or whatever, right? Is what you do inside those atrium. So I have already seen the atrium once. How do I keep curating experiences within the atrium? That what matter to us. I almost have these fights where I don't, okay, you know shop depths better than me as a designer. He knows hospitality better than me. But I know probably how to create a place. So where you can create those authentic places inside your property is probably the next level of the shopping experience. That's why we don't design many malls. You see, we design only few good ones, okay? And we just engage only for few properties where can we have sort of valuable, meaningful engagement on those properties. Chennai, we're doing the work. One thing we wanted to have Chennai property is all about culture. And the culture is not just the word culture and just put the tile, just put this thing. It's about how do you bring people together in an authentic way as a destination. And I say that in the shopping center, it's almost like a box. You can be anywhere in the world. If I make a Singapore theme, Green say, oh, you can be in Singapore, in Bangalore, right? But is this really truly what you want to give our guest? But if I can have a destination where you engage with the city, it's much more valuable for us. And that's why we're curating that experience with you, Ali, where the food is actually visible from outside. Okay, that's why the terrace outside is important. The food inside is important. So it's not just making the food where it fits, but also how do you curate the experience. And I think this is where the fun would be, where the next level of design would come from. Not just a typical atrium in the loop, and I mean everybody knows that, right? It's just the people which nobody wants to talk about. And other thing is, I know my time is up. Almost like if you talk about Bandra as a neighborhood where I used to live and moved there now, if you take away the all encroached spaces where the people have outdoor tables, the Bandra will fail. The fun is actually coming from the point that people can actually have that sort of canopy outside and put those seatings outside, right? So it's more like as a developer, you don't want to design for those encroached spaces outside, right? So imagine if you take away from a neighborhood all those outdoor seating spaces, okay? The restaurant will not function. And that's our duty, this is a design where we come in. Okay, no, this is important, we have to do that. That's my point.
Well, the restaurant, the mall that Ankit was referring to in Whitefield was a food mall that we are building. 45 restaurants, all facing the main road. So every single floor, across 5 floors, you will see 45 restaurants facing the main road. So before we open for questions, I'd like to summarize a key takeaway that I personally felt, starting from Abhishek, where he very nicely put that you need to have a good story. If you can tell a good story, then your customer, you have your customer engaged. And it's the story that really defines and not the technology. And coming to Kabir, dining out is community building, it's relationship building, it's enjoying time with your loved ones. It's not so much as to eat at a certain price. It's all about the experience which is coming again. Where people engage with their loved ones. And Vrinda, she spoke about culture, where you design locally and bring the cultural elements which people will relate to. And coming to Ankit, he spoke about discovery. He spoke about malls are neighborhood, and every time that you visit a mall, you should find something different, you should find something unique, you should find something which you didn't expect and discover something new which engages you, and it's a very casual environment where you just take your dog and stroll with your family. And Pramod mentioned many points, and the key takeaway, the underlying principle that PVR Cinemas is building and Pramod is building is that regardless of the content, the experience of cinema will be so amazing that when you go back, you'll relish and you'll cherish that movie experience and going out experience where the content becomes secondary and the experience becomes primary. So with this, ladies and gentlemen, I think we have run out of time. I already said from the mall's point of view, and everybody have discussed, I don't want to say anything more, only this, that the first wave of malls were built on convenience, put everything under one roof. Everything was there, we just brought it under one roof, and 700 malls came to India. 80% of the malls failed, 20% of the malls succeeded. But that era is over, that wave is over. The next wave of malls are malls which are going to have high experience, high engagement, and 5 years from now, and we can already see, not 5 years from now, even now, we are seeing malls in India on par with malls anywhere in the world. We are seeing stores in India and the products launched in India like they are launched anywhere in the world. And the movie experience, I might have to say that we have better than what we are seeing anywhere else in the world. So with that, I think we end this discussion, and at least 2 questions, 2 or 3 questions, if somebody has, anybody wants to ask anybody, please go ahead.
Any questions, ladies and gentlemen? Let's get a little bit of interaction from our members of the audience as well. I'm going to request you to raise your hands. We'll quickly pass the mics to you. I realize that was a lucid discussion, but in case any queries, any questions, let's get some interaction from the audience. Yes, sir. I'd also request you to introduce yourself before directing the question. Yeah.
Thank you. Ashish Kumar Sonthalia from Express Avenue, Chennai. Well, just want to know from the esteemed panel here, how do you uplift the brand? As you spoke about experience, as you spoke about engagement, rightly said, but then, you know, even the mall has to evolve with all the brands. Today there's an agreement of 6 years, 7 years, 8 years. At times the brand does not perform. So what do you feel, how can the engagement be between brand and the mall owners? What do you do in Forum here?
Well, we sold the malls. So that's how we responded to that situation. So we were stuck with these leases which were not getting over and so on and so forth. So we came up with new set of malls and created a new portfolio, and we opened 3 malls in last 9 months. It is a challenge, but still I'd like to answer that question. I think if you choose your partners carefully, like Abhishek here, Pramod here, and Kabir, they have so many formats. He has so many brands. So if you choose your partners carefully and you sit and discuss with them that, see, this is not working. You take any brand house. There are about 20 companies in this country who own 80% of organized retail. So any brand that you deal with, you sit with them and have a discussion that this is what we believe, this will work. I think we need to change. They will all agree. And they have all agreed, they all have changed and reinvested in stores. And then it's all understandable because it's ultimately them who's doing business. You discuss with them, they will all agree with you.
So each of us, you know, whether it's a retailer or a mall developer, each of us, it's like a work of art. You're painting. You need to have that passion when you paint. And if that painting comes up to your liking, it engages with you and your consumers. And what Ali suggested was the moment his painting stopped engaging, he sold it off. He started painting a new one.
I think there were a few more questions. One more gentleman there. Yeah.
I believe
if I can just add.
Can give opportunity to one more?
Yep.
Yeah, because we can. Yeah.
So the thing is, we are out of time, which is why we'll take that one last question from, sir, if I can request you to raise your hands one more time. Yeah. Okay.
I'm Pritish Gupta from Bhubaneswar, tier 2 city, but a fast upcoming, and we have PVRs opening over there. My question is to Kabir and a corollary to Vrinda, that in such tier 2 cities, when you don't have too large floor plates in malls, so how do you design them? What is it that you focus on? That's to Vrinda. And to somebody like Kabir, why are brands like you not looking at such enterprising cities?
That was a nice question. Even when we start a design, especially when we get a large floor plate to design in a tier 2 city, we actually think in what to fit in. Okay? So definitely something is driven by client, by their brief and their market study. So market study is quite relevant even today in every aspect. That demand is there. But what differential we have to create whenever in tier 2, even tier 3 cities, when you the mall frequencies or the location, such malls wouldn't exist like, every 200 kilometers or something like that. The coverage is very large. The coverage is very large. So it will attract customers from at least for longer distance. Even people drive and they do their shopping and they go. So in such large malls, definitely for them, the brand availability is there to do everything. That means somebody is coming from the longer driving period, he is tend to spend a full day or at least more than a half a day in his shopping. So what the whole family or whoever is coming, what holds him for the full day? That means there is food. I'm sure Kabir will tell you about what and all he can offer. But what we can create in terms of experiences, not just make that as just an add-on for the shopper who has come, create an experience. See, definitely this is not just as a designer my call. It is a call in collaboration with client. It's a brief which comes there. You create an experience or create a level which goes high on entertainment. In tier 2 cities, today also the larger projects are high on entertainment. I'm not telling very high on food, may or may not. Certain cities, most of the North India goes high on food because there is the culture of having, I'm sure they will have a good research data, the culture of having food outside or having these weekends, this thing, and the multi-cuisine, this thing is very high in the north. Whenever I'm speaking this context, I'm leaving all the urban side of it. But on entertainment, every mall we are designing in the tier 2, the first factor is entertainment. Maybe the cinema, FEC. FEC comes as a very large component. It goes up even to 20, 25,000. If there is no space, they go to terrace also. So that kind of a demand is there. So I would say it's not just as a design, we can make a provision. It is also a collaboration in the brief what comes from the client.
To answer your question, I think, sir, a lot of brands, domestic brands, are looking at non-metro markets, especially after COVID. I think what we have realized is that certain metros are very saturated. Rent-to-revenue ratios have become very expensive. Margins are getting stretched. So I can assure you, we definitely are, and there are many amongst the fraternity that are looking at tier 1s, tier 2s, and you'll be surprised with the numbers some of these cities are throwing out in regard to revenue generation. Because there's restricted competition, there's restricted offerings. So as a result, the consumer living in that city or state obviously does not have the choice that the metros have. So I think you will see an influx of people coming in, and I think so that journey is already started. People have entered all kinds of cities. Dehradun, for example, has just got lambasted with about 25 new brands that have just entered. So there's a lot of cities that are getting, I think there's a lot of cluster approach that's happening. So when 1 or 2, 3 guys enter, then everyone follows the herd, right? So then the herd just follows behind them. It's that, someone needs to bite the bullet first, and everyone then understands what the market is sort of driving and what the revenue thresholds are, and then everyone comes like a honey pot. Everyone just like bees, they just come at it. So for me, the future of growth in India is the smaller towns. Yes, the metros obviously will fuel growth as we go forward because disposable income increases in the metros as well. The metros are far more competitive. The metros are far more expensive to operate. And the locations available in the metros are far less, as in they're a lot lower in respect to what's available outside the metros. So the ones that have got the locations, the key locations in the key malls or in the key borough markets in the metros are fighting to keep those locations no matter what, because that is basically for them marketing in many ways, for them to be relevant. and to be connected in the eyes with the consumer, but the actual margin expansion is happening in the smaller towns.
So Agarwal साहब, closing remarks. हम तो भुवनेश्वर में हैं और भुवनेश्वर के आगे भी जा रहे हैं. We do not tier cities. We don't call it tier 1 because the moment I make the pyramid go upside down, तो उसमें मुझे मुंबई जो है tier 3 नजर आती है. Time poor, cash poor consumer. कैसे address करूं?